the mission is all about providing adults with modern strategies to navigate new territory. And it seems like 2025, it just keeps coming.
Thank you for tuning into Time for You Evolve for female entrepreneurs. Remember, you have what it takes to achieve greatness. Your time is now. You're here with me. You're ready to change lives and you're ready to change the world. Isn't it time to skip over the confusion and start creating sustainable and consistent results? We're going to pull back the curtain and start giving meaning to life in this podcast. Time for You Evolved. Hey, my name is Lisa Carmichael, and I am obsessed with everything online. It's no secret in this crowded and highly competitive business world, we need to stand out. It's even more important at a deeper level to stand up for ourselves. I'm a farm girl who grew up shy with zero confidence. If someone had suggested that I would eventually start a podcast, I never would have believed it. As a farm kid, I had the unique opportunity to embrace a holistic approach to life. All the seasons of growth were lessons that have helped me and other female entrepreneurs find success when they've been stuck and struggling. The Time for You Evolved podcast is here to help you navigate business online so you can be laser focused and help you navigate the messy and the magical in every season of your business. Pull up a seat to hear the tried and true secrets that other female entrepreneurs like you are facing and get ready for real talk while you learn. This is the Time for You Evolved podcast. They're entrepreneurs ready to work smarter, not harder. Let's talk video marketing. It's the savvy way to attract, retain, and convert faster than any other strategy out there. Who can blame you? Creating videos can be frustrating, time consuming, and downright intimidating. That's where Big View comes in. It's the solution for your frustration. With Big View, you can create professional videos with ease thanks to its teleprompter app. I've been using Big View for years. Big View is an app that has saved me a lot of time and hassle. The app makes it easy to create professional looking videos. It's an online teleprompter that allows the presenter to keep eye contact with the camera while reading the text they need to speak. Big View allows you to focus on your performance and delivery so your confidence shines through. Whether you're a marketer, blogger, trainer, or business owner, Big View is designed with you in mind. If you're ready to take your video marketing game to the next level, click on the Big View link on my website, lisarcarmichael.com/bigview. Join me and be the best presenter you can be and learn how to make great presentations. Today's guest is Juli Okal, and she's on a mission to help Gen X women navigate life's transitions with clarity and purpose. As the founder of The Shift Matters, she empowers women stepping beyond their traditional career paths to design futures that align with their values. She has a background in adult learning, leadership, and change management, including a career at 3M. Julie brings a wealth of knowledge to her work. Her latest guidebook, Your Green Portfolio Life, offers practical tools to help women create lives rich with meaning. Through her pop up masterminds in the Twin Cities, she fosters community connection and new possibilities. So, welcome, Julie. I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so excited to be here. I've been thinking about this and really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a conversation. I've
Wow.
got my water and I just want it to be relaxing. One thing that you and I had talked about is we actually prepped for this conversation. And I love that you have such a caring personality. You just
Mm.
shine at looking out for other people. And you really wanted to tap into my audience, female entrepreneurs, and specifically the name of Time for You Evolved. And I'm just going to ask you, in your season of life and in your season of business, how does time affect everything that you do?
Wow. Well, time is this commodity that I think as we move on, right, and we get wiser as we go, it gets to be more precious. And so, how we use it and what the intent of spending time looks like for us, I think changes, and it's very natural to do. I think there's seasons where our time is all about caregiving or all about, focusing on one big thing. And I think over time, I'm starting to, especially going back to the pandemic, and we'll talk about that, think about what would be possible if we were to expand our kind of our definition and our hopes about time and how we spend it, what a great day looks like, and things like that. So that's what
Oh,
makes
for
this
sure.
conversation exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to catch myself this morning when I was thinking to myself, I'll be glad when this day is over. I just have so much packed
So many
in.
things. Yep. Those lists, the real.
And it's not healthy for us to do that. And I think, is that something that you noticed when you started your business?
Oh, totally. I mean, I talk about this, I write about this concept of rewiring ourselves and it's whether it be about time, Lisa, or, these default patterns we kind of bring with us wherever we go. And when you're out here as an entrepreneur, your time, it is your own. And boy, is there a lot to do. It feels like it's a different kind of a to-do list, right? Than we had maybe when we were, if we had a prior career or another, worked inside of an organization where they gave us this box, with this job description. So I think it's almost more challenging on the outside to figure out what makes for a productive day, what makes for a day that doesn't feel exhausting at the end, right? And each of us have our own answers for that question, which I find fascinating.
Oh, for sure. And one thing I love about you too, Julie, is that you are very intentional. You have a way of digging deep into the material that you train on.
Mm.
And I've been to one of your workshops, and you're so impressive because you have that awareness that people don't just want cliche information. They don't want surface. And you've done the work. You go into depth with it. So I just wanted to point that out with your intention. So speaking of
Thank you.
time, let's hear a little bit more about your work that you have going on in 2025.
Sure. Sure. Well, and before I jump into my world, I did want to take a minute and just thank you for your advising. I mean, you and I haven't known us very known each other very long, right? Maybe a couple of months ish. And, a few of the nudges that you've offered up have really helped the year start out really strong. And so I just wanted to start out with appreciation to you. And that's such a gift, right? To meet
Thank
people.
you.
Yeah, to meet people and they make things better when you talk with them and kind of open your eyes and open your kind of perspective, like to your point on in getting maybe from this to-do list to like, oh wow, well, maybe that to-do list wouldn't be so intense if I were to think different, right? Or approach things in a different manner. So I want to start out and say thank you for your
Of course.
for
Of
your
course.
advising.
So
So
your intentions for 2025.
2025. So there's really two big ones, and they are to both spark meaningful conversations. So this is, great example. And then secondly, it's to bring self-coaching to be more accessible in the marketplace. But unless you had a job or had an organization that thought coaching was something to understand and skills to fine tune, you might not have access to that. So those are the two: meaningful connections and self-coaching, making it more accessible.
And how did you come up with this concept then?
That's
I'm
a great
sure you have
question.
a personal
Oh my
story.
gosh, it weaves right back to the pandemic, like right in the throes of it. And I found a real big need in both myself and then those that were surrounding me. So that was, I don't know, 8 or 10 women at that point. And when we're, 45 plus, right? Sandwiched right between the caregiving of the kids, which some of us thought those were gone to college, right? And then the caregiving of the parents and the career. And all this stuff was upended. And, again, no surprise to to your audience about that. But we really found a lot of value in coming together to make sense of what was happening. And we started asking bigger questions because the status quo was like it just broke, like everything broke. And the other thing that was appearing was where our priorities shifted, right? So maybe being focused on one thing on that big to-do list, like all of a sudden that was like moved to the side and like these other things became more important. So it went right back to the pandemic and feeling really compelled to come out with some resources for people to be asking bigger questions. Yeah, so that's what I've been working on, and that's why it's exciting to have them out into the world. And my hope is to help adults with, modern strategies, which include self-coaching, to navigate this new territory, which is right. We're still in this aftershock phase, right? It's still we can still feel it. And how do we move forward in a more promising way with agency and energy and really re-envision what our futures can look like with these new priorities. And so I call that a green portfolio life, and like to think about how do we how do we give ourselves some permission, to your point about time, to take a step back and to kind of re-weld our lives back together in a way that are more sustainable, that are more integrated with what we care about. And that's been really juicy work so far in 2025.
I love that. So the green portfolio life came to you during the pandemic, or did you finish it
Yeah, it's
at that
well,
time?
the need surfaced for sure there with myself and with others on, asking these bigger questions and kind of looking around and not being okay with the status quo any longer. And so the need appeared then, but the idea and the what about and the model appeared last year. So influenced by different people, and I write about that, all the influences I had, and there were a lot that helped inform the model and the set of skills that go along with developing what that looks like for an individual person based on your individual priorities and your context, because it's going to be different, right? Your definition will be different than mine.
Hmm. Hmm.
And those answers aren't coming from organizations, or questions really aren't, right? It's been 5 years. The Gallup study says it's still kind of a mess. And so how do we all, take a moment and step back and find, not only find the resources, Lisa, but find the helpers, right? To help us kind of reimagine what's possible for our lives in a way that, again, it's that we're not collapsing at the end of the day, right? That we can do this for another so many years and do it in a manner that we're both proud of, but we're also excited about. That's what gets me
So
going.
this is actually a guidebook
It is a
then.
guidebook.
Okay. And I, you worked in corporate, and I think mental health is starting to become something that large corporations are starting to understand. But how long can you lean onto someone like your therapist? Eventually that
Mm.
relationship might come to an end, or change happens. So how does a person utilize the guidebook in their life? Or
Yeah,
what, and
I
how would you like people to feel even after
yeah,
going
that's a
through the
great question.
guidebook?
Well, the first one is really not feeling alone. Like if your life kind of feels like it doesn't fit, it's like, the wet swimsuit, when you try to put a wet swimsuit on, it's like a nightmare, right? So it's like if it has a feeling where it's just not working for you anymore, a lot of people are noticing that. So it's, first it's not you. And then, offering up some stories and some questions, some prompts can help people again take a step back and really question their way forward. So to your point, therapists have a role, friends and family have a role, but some of these things they kind of go deeper, because I think some of the shifts that happen within each of us on our, again, go back to our priorities and what matters to us now. And so that could be part of what feels off, is we're just not aligned. Our life isn't aligned to what matters to us. And so the guidebook just offers questions to ask, and really positioned really for, those kind of 45 plus that have, kind of the experience and the background to be able to pause maybe and to ask some bigger questions about the next, 15 years or so. Not everybody has the capacity, right? Or the luxury of that time. So I'm also trying to respect that, when you're in the throes of caregiving, right? Or the momming or the whatever that looks like for you, it might not be your moment. That might be what matters, right? So there are seasons,
For sure.
these
And
seasons.
Julie, I have a marketing background. So who is your target audience for the guidebook? Who should really get their hands on it?
Yeah. So it was written specifically for Gen Xers.
Mm.
So for those that, and there's some research coming out that talks about how 67% of Gen Xers would prefer to kind of parachute or glide out of working over time versus like the boomer generation that kind of grew up in the time where they're going to work to the end and then be done like a cliff. And so this is really written for my generation and beyond to kind of reimagine what the next 15 to 20 years could look like for us, kind of building in the longevity research and the art of flourishing research and kind of giving us a different model as opposed to the models that we all grew up with. And that's what I think is exciting because the way we think about our lives and our contributions and what's possible, I think the world, again, from the fallout of the pandemic, I think we all had time, right, to be thinking about those things. So this just gives people, again, that kind of 45 plus, the chance to step back and consider what their answers might be. And so it's not a set of answers, it's a set of questions with a model.
I love that because I had a conversation yesterday and I was really frustrated and I was almost let down
Hmm.
by the conversation that I was having. And this morning, I forgot to ask myself at the time, I had to think about it like, why was I so frustrated?
Hmm.
And when I feel that, the question that I ask myself is, what am I here to learn?
Hmm. That's a good one.
Because I don't believe the world is out to get us. I think that there are learning lessons in everything.
Right.
And if we can just have that awareness, and I think your workshops and your guidebook give you that awareness that you can think differently and we can move out of that status quo.
Right. And if things are going fine, like right, if you get to the end of your day or your weeks or your month and you're like things are good, then I think what you and I both are compelled to come alongside others that are maybe not so thrilled with the way things are going, right? These are people that will kind of want to stir the pot a little bit, right? Entrepreneurs. And so this helps us stir kind of our own pot as we're stirring up, these bigger solutions in the marketplace. So it's kind of doing our own work with ourselves so that we can bring out the best solutions for the clients we're hoping to serve. So
Hmm.
yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
goes back to the time for yourself, right? The name of the podcast,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, the podcast is for female entrepreneurs. What have been your biggest lessons as an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh. Like, how long will this be? We could take days, I think, to talk about this. I think, well, you and I talked a little bit about this already. You had an example of how to pay attention to what our defaults are. Like, when you come out of an organization, for instance, and you're an expert in a given field, right? So those default modes, we bring them with us. And so one of my examples is the do-it-yourselfer. So again, back in the day when you wanted it, when you had a deadline, right, you could just really close the door and focus in and get the job done. And it was very efficient, right? And you always made the timeline you were supposed to make. Well, when you come out here in entrepreneur context and you bring that with you, I had an experience early on where I offered up something to the marketplace and it wasn't going as I hoped. And so eventually I had to again, ask myself some bigger questions. And I had to call in some helpers to help me step back and think bigger. And so I think about helpers like there's different kinds of helpers. Like you can have the cheerers, right? Like our friends and family that are like, Lisa, Julie, you can do it. And then there's these steerers that have been around the block, and they could be coaches, they could be, marketing strategists or brand or website people, right? That this is their expertise. And like you talk about that to-do list, like if I did everything that I needed to do, I would just never get it done as an entrepreneur. So when I knock on the door of a steerer, they will do a couple things. And you've done this for me, like, ask bigger questions about, who are you trying to serve? How did you come up with that solution? Where did that information come from, right? So you're helping, and the steerers really help us work on the business. And my tendency is with maybe many of the watchers and the listeners is to work in the business. So they're kind of helping us get up and out of the day to day and make sure we are on the right road, right? Or are we working really hard to the right aims, right, to the right ends? That's been something I've had to unlearn and to relearn how to ask for help, which is humbling. It's humbling but again, I've never done entrepreneurship before the last 3 years, right? Navigating a big company is an entrepreneur, but it's different out here. So, so that's what I would say is the do-it-yourselfer. And maybe some of the people listening or watching can relate to that story. And how do we know it's time to call in a helper, right?
And when did you leave corporate, or how many months has it been, or
It's 3 years
years?
next month. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, it's been such a great adventure. And it was exactly what I was looking for, is an adventure. And that has been nothing short of that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you have the experience of both corporate and entrepreneurialism. And when you talk about steers, have
Yes.
you come across someone that may have steered you in the wrong way? And what do you do when that happens?
A great question. Well, I think with everything, you have to pay attention to the source, meaning that where the information is coming from. Um, is it trusted? Is the person trusted? Do they have the background? And what your feeling is like when you're working with them? Is it about, who's it about? Is it about their business? Is it about your business? So it's almost like having some criteria for if you believe it and if it's worthwhile to follow their advice. And sometimes it just takes time to figure that out. So you can,
Right.
and I don't think there's been anyone well, you get a lot of advice out here. And I think it kind of goes back to really paying attention to the reason you're doing the work you're doing, like what really is your mission. And if we can be close to the audiences, close to the clients we're hoping to serve, that really should be our main listening point. And so, asking the helpers in for expertise in a given function is where I would suggest is really helpful. So like a marketing function, a business development function. For me, it was the editing function where, well, I know about it. I wouldn't call myself an expert. I didn't do that for, 5 to 10 years in my career. So those are the people that have, again, they come with the credibility, right? And they come with the testimonials, and yeah, and that's a trust there that you can trust it's coming from a credible source.
Oh,
Good
definitely.
question.
It's a very noisy world out
It is.
there in the online world, and everyone is preaching.
Yeah.
And what do you think the solution is to that?
To the preaching.
Yeah. Or what would you suggest? I guess I'm not looking for a solution because that's not fair. But what would you recommend?
Well, it goes back to the name of your podcast. If you can take some time and really focus in on the reason, the purpose of your work and who you're really hoping to better, what audience are you hoping to enhance their outcomes, their experience? That's priceless. And so, yeah, that's where I would say that's a great place to spend time and energy is, direct with the clients or the audiences that you serve, because they'll tell you if you ask them. But if you don't ask them, they're not going to tell you. And I've had that experience too.
Oh, for sure. We have to
Yeah.
ask good questions. We have to be good at the questions that we ask because we won't get the right answer if we're not asking the right question.
Well, and the other thing is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not straightforward, and it's not efficient. So that's why I go back again, if you really are clear about your mission and clear about your own talents and your own expertise, then it can allow you, it can create some space to find the helpers that you're going to need, that you would trust, right? And that they'll be their partner for you. They're going to be a strategic partner, not like a transactional text message or something, right? Coming at you, right? Because we get a lot of that. Maybe that's another criteria is, is it strategic? Is it, and I talk about that in the guidebook, is it a two-way? Is it reciprocal? Or do you feel like you're doing a lot of the giving? You're doing a lot of the work. So you want to pay attention to that too. Just make sure it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the give and take part of it, I'm a firm believer in giving as much value as you possibly can as an entrepreneur and not to expect anything in return.
Mm.
Because once we start expecting, that's when we start to spiral.
Mm. Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting perspective because when I've written about the idea of a green portfolio life, it is filled with activities and engagements that are reciprocal. So there's a two-way vibe to the interactions, and that can lead us again to a more sustainable kind of path. The other way to think about it, to your point, if there's some activities or experiences that it is one way where you are a caregiver maybe like that, and it's not so reciprocal in nature, is to make sure you're balancing. You have something else that's time for yourself in the morning or getting to go walk the dog, right? Something else that will kind of fill up your cup so that you don't just do the giving all day, because we found that out and we're still finding that out, right? Burnout's a real thing. So it's how do we take care of ourselves so that we can do the work we want to do the work we'd like to do, and to your point, provide more value than it's being expected. So I like that thinking about it. So it's the portfolio concept. It doesn't have to be one thing where we run really hard. It can be multiple things.
And you still have a plan. You have that vision, which does that help bring balance into your life and into your business?
That's been another learning, I would say, Lisa, is this, again, it's unlearning a bit where, in my old world, we'd have a plan. We'd spend a lot of time on the plan, right? We'd analyze, we'd data crunch, we'd have the metrics, we'd have all the things, the dashboards. And then it was all about working to the plan, right? With the deadlines, and those kind of didn't move very much. And my experience has been that there's a balance between like high level goals, like you asked at the beginning of the podcast, and what happens when we're listening and paying attention to what the clients or the audience are really valuing, like what's resonating, and how do we iterate our offering based on what we're hearing and what we're noticing. So my example is that early on, I offered up a solution that it had good success early on, a good pilot, positive. And then once it was out in the market, it just wasn't, the needs weren't scalable. Like it wasn't there. And so in that case, I had to kind of take a step back and pivot. And so the good news for me was there was a learning in that. And now this year's offering was built in public. So it was over, 24 people weighed in and helped me fine tune the language, fine tune the needs, ask questions, and really clarify what the work was about and who it was for. And that included a professional editor, Lisa, that, wow, did she have a lot of things to say. So that was humbling again, because she identified blind spots, right? And she asked bigger questions, right? As an expert coming in, a helper, asked bigger questions. And you know what happened? It made it better. It was not easier. It was not faster. But now that I'm starting to have conversations with people, it's accessible. It's the intent of the work is to make it accessible and resonate. And so, but it involved asking for some help, and it also involved iterating as I went. So those are two different experiences. Again, the first one I kind of built in a DIY mode, didn't go as well. The second one I built in public. And again, a lot of time iterating, right? Iterating. And the new muscle, it's a new muscle to build. It's that rewiring, it's that unlearning and relearning that as entrepreneurs, it's kind of a real thing out here.
That must have been a big leap by hiring somebody and to be your editor and to pay for the
Yep.
professional advice, because you weren't the expert. You had to find an expert.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on how you rationalize that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, going back to I think there's moments in your entrepreneurship journey where if things are not going as hoped, I mean, that's kind of a clue, right? When things aren't progressing as hoped, where could the helpers be? And or if you're going to be trying something that you've never tried before, who's been down and around the corner, you know, 30 times in the last week, right? That can just see different things than you can. And there's a whole body of work around experts versus beginners. And as entrepreneurs, we spend a lot of time in the beginner space. And so it's just important to recognize, and it's humbling, but there are moments where we do need help. And again, with the advice you gave is another example. They can be game changing in terms of where I would have taken it and how I would have focused, right? I would have felt very efficient, right? And very, very maybe pleased that I got it done in a certain period of time. But that's not the point as an entrepreneur, right? The point is, how are we best serving our customers, right? How are we adding the most value we can? And sometimes we need helpers. We need steers to help us ask those bigger questions and get us out of the weeds. Yeah.
And I truly believe that you are one of those people that people could get that information from. So I want to just take a step back and
Sure.
give you a moment to shine. And what makes Julie special that someone would want to work with you? Now, that's a tough question. No, that should be an easy one.
It is a tough question. I think the difference that I'm hoping to bring now is, you can find a lot of things out there where people, like in higher ed space, where people are studying people like us, right? So they're studying entrepreneurs, and there's clinical tests, and there's, surveys being filled out. And then you can find people that, to your point, online, that got a lot of things to say, and they've got the top 10 things, and it's very noisy. But I'm hoping to bring a mix of, the practicality of having been out in the market, right? Been doing the things, been learning and stumbling alongside other entrepreneurs, other 45-plus-year-old people. So I'm still in the trenches with people, and I have, like you said, I like to go deep and read and go back to school, and I'm like a super nerd as it relates to change and people, and I find it fascinating. So I'm hoping it's a combination where it's research based. It is not something I'm making up. It's based on both experience and adult learning, both experience and with the intent of making it accessible. So it's not for a certain category of people. I really am excited about making it available, again, accessible for anyone who's interested and who's willing to do the work. Does that answer your question?
It does.
It's
It
a tough
does.
question, Lisa.
Well, and you have a deep background that, and we will share that in the show notes so that people can get to know you that way. You know, before finding out how people can get involved with you or how to find you, there's one question I wanted to ask about earlier. You had mentioned, and I'm a word nerd, and you talked about how do we move forward from here with agency and energy. What do you mean by agency?
Right. So in the space of adult learning, there is this, there's a lot of theories and things, but one of the things that as adults, we have our own our own like arsenal, our own kind of hip pocket full of our experiences, full of our ability to learn and kind of learn from others and watching what doesn't work with them, and our ability to make choices and move forward in a more promising direction for ourselves. And so that's different than, like when we were back and we were 12, right? And we were learning facts and reciting things and, picking a multiple choice. So agency is about, as an adult, what are the questions we're asking? What is the situation asking from us? And then having the confidence and the energy to kind of step forward with actions, and they can be small, in order to move forward in a more promising direction. And that is the crux of the work, is helping people just remember that you do have the agency. And sometimes, again, you might need the question or the space, right? But it's in there. Like your answers are in there, but maybe just someone hasn't asked you before, or you haven't taken the time to think about it. And again, we can go for 30 years and people aren't asking us these questions, Lisa, right? So it's kind of like reorienting ourselves to our own capacity and our own ability to move forward with promise. That's what I would say agency is all about.
Gotcha. So, why would a listener want to grab your guidebook? And if they want to grab it,
Yeah,
where would they find it?
good question. So let's see. The why would be, again, if the way life is unfolding since the pandemic feels off, or just like it's not working the way it was before the pandemic, this could be a resource for you to think about things in your life in a way where the questions can help you move forward. So it's a questioning your way forward guidebook. And then secondly, where you can find it is in my website. So that is The Shift Matters. And so we've got resources on there. As you mentioned, there's different masterminds and things. So and it's evolving. And so it's evolving as the clients come and have conversations about what a community could look like and what the next iteration of the offerings could look like. So that's where to go. There's socials on there like you'd find. And so, some people like the email, some people like the socials. So whatever works best for you, you can choose and follow along. We'd love to have you with us.
Okay, so we will include that in the show
Thank
notes.
you.
And the shift matters. Last question.
Yes.
How did you come up with that? Tell
Oh
us
my
more.
gosh. Well, I think it came out of the throes of the pandemic, where I'm like, the the things that matter are shifting. And that was for me and for those around me. So it just lent itself to some juicy language. And I do believe, again, going back to the work and the intent for adults, is what are the shifts that matter in your life, like the priorities that are shifting, maybe the context is shifting, maybe your life phase is shifting, and what are the ways that you can shift as a participant in your life, right? or help shift the world around you. And again, in a more promising, more integrated, more sustainable way. And yeah, and that's at our fingertips.
The world is lucky to have you, that you created this book, this guidebook.
It can be hard to take a step back and think about me because I'm so close to me, I can't see myself, right? I'm like a fish can't see the water, right? But if in a group of people, if I'm in a community of people, I really learn well with others. And by watching and demonstrating other people demonstrating, again, it goes back to the helpers, right? The steerers. It also goes back to where are we getting our information from, right? Who is operating in a way that's more promising and more sustainable in our lives. And if we can't name any, you know, maybe that's a moment to think about that and go find those people so that you do have good role models now. Because I think our role models are changing, right? Who do we look up to? Who do we want to listen to? Right? When it's
Hmm.
really noisy. Um, it's almost like curating, right? The inputs so that our outputs are what we hope for ourselves and our community and our clients. So yeah, that works up to us.
Anything that you want to share before we say goodbye?
Again, just a thank you for for having me on and for nudging me. So I wanted to share a quick story about how Lisa nudged me. The first part of this year was really pressure testing some content and some new ways of thinking out in the marketplace. And what Lisa did was, kind of remind me that, hey, if things are moving, you need to keep moving with it. Like it's not time to step back and kind of analyze. It's time to keep moving and kind of stay ahead of the keep the pace going. So that was one
Hmm.
thing you did for me. And the second thing, you nudged me to put dates out into the world. I don't know if you remember this conversation. So I was like, well, they'll happen when they happen, and kind of hemming and hawing. You're like, no, actually, dates would be good. Like, let's go. Let's get them out there. And I'm thinking, and I thought about it for 2 days, and they're out there now. So thank you for the nudge. Yeah, you've been
Yay.
there, you've been
Yay.
around the corner, and we can't do this all by ourselves.
No.
It's not a do-it-yourself life, right? We do our best when we're doing it in community and have the support of others and can support them back. So just a thank you, Lisa.
How fun was that? I love Julie, and I loved the one thing that she said about entrepreneurs, and there are people that are watching entrepreneurs collecting data about us. I just found that really interesting. So I hope you check out her guide. And she does have a purpose. She is very driven. Julie is helping people solve bigger problems instead of staying stuck and focusing on the small stuff. When we can rise to the top and take a look at what really is going on, that's when the shift happens. And so her work is helping people find confidence. And when we find more confidence, it just makes the world a better place. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Time for You Evolve for Female Entrepreneurs. If you loved this episode as much as I did, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and if you want to support the show, leaving a review goes a long way. A special shout out to our amazing partners and sponsors. Their support allows us to continue bringing you engaging content every week. And with a big thank you, I look forward to seeing you next time. If you're ready to supercharge your email marketing and automation game, look no further than my favorite autoresponder, ActiveCampaign. It's the ultimate all-in-one platform designed to turn your contacts into customers and your customers into loyal advocates. Imagine having a tool that not only understands your customers, but anticipates their needs. That's what ActiveCampaign does. With its powerful customer experience automation, you can create personalized journeys that nurture leads, drive sales, and build lasting relationships. The biggest reason I chose ActiveCampaign after trying other autoresponders is because I wanted to make sure my emails were being delivered and not going into spam. I need to know that my emails actually get to the people I'm emailing so that I have good engagement rates, response rates, and click-through rates on every email I send. Then I can have peace of mind that what I send out about my blog posts or upcoming events gets delivered and that people get to read what I write. ActiveCampaign offers live support through chats, webinars, and in-person study halls, again, which is so different from those other email services I've tried in the past. If you're ready to up your marketing game, go to my website, lisarcarmichael.com/activecampaign, which is my partner link, and sign up for a free trial. Experience firsthand the power of ActiveCampaign and take your marketing to a new level. Hi, friends. Let's have a heart-to-heart about something that's been a significant part of my life, skincare. As a busy female entrepreneur, I need a quick and effective routine. About a year or so ago, I stumbled across my secret weapon, Droplet. It's made a remarkable difference in my skin. Now, I'm a self-proclaimed skincare junkie. I've tried it all, from serums to spa treatments, and even once selling a natural body care line. So when I learned about Droplet, I knew I had to give it a shot. Droplet delivers personalized skincare with its micro infuser, penetrating ingredients deep into your skin. It's like a Nespresso for skincare. It's quick, easy, with capsules that are recyclable. No cleanup, no hassle. Droplet's formulas are clinical strength, dermatologist recommended, and are cruelty-free. It's a skincare lover's dream. If you're ready to evolve beyond the basics, head over to the Droplet link on my website today where you can start your own personalized Droplet routine. Investing in a good skincare routine is crucial for any woman, especially us busy entrepreneurs. First impressions matter, and you want to put your best face forward. Droplet offers free consultations with their estheticians to address your skin concerns. Here's to glowing, radiant, and fiercely beautiful you, no matter what age you are. Get your 20% savings by heading over to my website, lisarcarmichael.com/droplet.